What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to two people. I want to give a shout out, first of all, to Ticket TV. The big homie, Ticket, contributed to this channel today. All right. Thank you, Ticket, for your contribution to the channel. And I think Ticket has the best basketball channel on YouTube. All right. So if you're not subscribed to Ticket TV, please subscribe to Ticket TV. And I want to also give a shout out to my boy Al for his contribution to the channel. Now, he contributed, I think it was a couple days ago, but I just forgot to shout him out in the video, the one I did earlier today. So I want to give a shout out to Al for his contribution to the channel. And I want to thank everybody that's contributed to my channel over the past year. And I want to thank everybody that has supported my channel throughout the years. Now, let me say this before I get to this video, because this is important. People have to realize that guys like Isiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer definitely have an agenda when it pertains to Michael Jordan. Okay, we all know what's going on right now. Well, we have this 10-part docu-series on ESPN, and as former bad boys, okay, former adversaries of the Chicago Bulls, there's no love lost between the Bulls and the Pistons. In particular, Bill Laimbeer and Isiah Thomas. John Sally's in there too, but especially those two, okay? They do not like, and in many ways, respect Michael Jordan or the Chicago Bulls, okay? Isiah Thomas is a guy that's from Chicago, and he's always resented the fact that Chicago adores Michael Jordan. A guy that was born in Brooklyn and grew up in North Carolina, and he's an icon of Chicago. Isiah's from Chicago, and he's hated in Chicago. He's never forgiven Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen to a lesser extent, and other players, for banishing him from the 1992 Dream Team. Okay? He's never forgiven Michael Jordan for that. And he's also resented the fact that over the years, not only has Michael Jordan become a basketball icon, but Isiah's never been looked at in the same light as his good friend Magic or Larry Bird or even Julius Erving, for that matter. He's not looked upon in the same light as those guys. Hell, remember, Magic is just recently reconciled with Isiah. They were once best friends in the 1980s into the early 1990s, but their friendship was ended because of Isiah's backbiting and rumor mongering. And it was only a couple years ago that they buried the hatchet on the situation. But there's a lot there, okay? There's a lot there as to why Isiah Thomas hates Michael Jordan. And the feeling is more than mutual. So you better believe there's an agenda involved, okay? He doesn't respect Michael Jordan. That's the reason why when the Bulls swept the Pistons in 1991, they elected to walk off the court instead of congratulating the Bulls. They don't respect Michael nor the Bulls. So you take what he says with a grain of salt. But you have to listen to me. In a recent interview, Isiah Thomas said, and I'm going to imitate him the best way I can, I think this generation of players is not getting enough credit for what they're doing. because the athletes that are in this generation are so far superior than what was in my generation when we were playing. Jordan was the best athlete that we had ever seen. But from an athletic standpoint, there are like 10 or 11 guys in the NBA right now with Jordan's athleticism. We didn't have that back then. With what Kevin Durant and LeBron are doing, if you put them back in the era of the 1980s with their talent, their athleticism, and their skill, who's the GOAT? Well, let me say this first of all, right? I've said this before. Now, maybe you didn't hear me say this before in a video, but I believe that the best era for athleticism is not now. I think this is the best era for like overall 3-point shooting. Okay, like 3-point shooting. Yes, I'll give this era the nod for the best as far as overall shooting from three, but not necessarily overall because the mid range, with the exception of a few guys, is not there anymore. But to me, the best athletic era would probably be the mid 90s throughout the 2010s. And then it started getting phased out as the game changed. I think the best athletes all played in that era. I'm talking about, of course, Jordan, of course, Pippen, okay? But I'm talking about Sean Kemp. I'm talking about Tony McDyess. I'm talking about Anthony Penny Hardaway. I'm talking about Grant Hill. I'm talking about Tracy McGrady. I'm talking about Vince Carter. I'm talking about Stevie Franchise. I'm talking about Baron Davis. Okay, I'm talking about Desmond Mason. I'm talking about Jason Richardson. I'm talking about Amari Stoudemire. I'm talking about uh, Sean Marion. Of course, LeBron James. Young Carmelo. Okay, Dwayne Wade. Okay, Michael Finley. Okay, I'm talking about Darvin Ham. Wasn't a great player, but he was a ferocious competitor and a good role player for a while. Um, Tim Thomas. I'm talking about that era that encompassed all these guys that could just, not only were they fast and athletic, but they could, you know, jam it on any and every fucking body. You know what I'm saying? Kobe, if I haven't mentioned him, young Kobe. I mean, that era had so many athletic guys. Okay, but that started getting phased out a little bit, a little as hand checking came out went to wayward, and the NBA tried to open the game up and make it more high scoring and more shooting orientated. That's why the Warriors, who once had the tandem of Steph Curry and Monte Ellis, another athletic guard, that's why he was jettisoned and was out the league in like 4 years because his game wasn't predicated on what the NBA was starting to become, geared towards shooters. So this is not the most athletic era. And also another thing, some of the most athletic guys, as I said, were in the 2000s, but that did not necessarily make them great players. Prime example, Darius Miles, phenomenal athlete, not a great basketball player. Stromile Swift, great athlete, wasn't a great basketball player. These guys could jump out the gym, but they couldn't fucking shoot to save their lives. And that's what you generally saw, okay, with that. So you missed me on that one. And there are not 10 or 11 guys right now playing with Michael Jordan's athleticism. The guy still shares the record for highest vertical leap with Dr. Duncanstein, Dale Griffith, who I might add was in Isiah Thomas's era with the Utah Jazz. I think he played from 1979 to 1991 or something. That's Isiah Thomas's era. Both those guys, Jordan and and Dr. Duncanstein, were in Isiah Thomas's era. Spud Webb could jump out of the fucking gym. Spud Webb had a 44-inch vertical leap. Okay, Dr. J, 41-inch vertical leap. You know, there were a lot of great athletes playing at that time. The difference is, in the 80s, okay, you may not have had guys that on every team that could just yam everybody, but you had complete actual basketball players playing then. And let me say this too, all right? 'Cause I know that's what everybody want me to get to. Now, I do believe that Kevin Durant in the 1980s would have been a phenomenal player. He's a guy that you could put in any era, and he's going to dominate. If George Gervin could win 4 scoring titles, there's no doubt in my mind that if you put Kevin Durant in that era, he can win just as many, if not more, scoring titles than George Gervin did. All right, he's a better outside shooter than George Gervin. He's a little bit better overall shooter than George Gervin was, in my opinion, even definitely from the foul line, but perhaps even from the mid range. That's debatable. But well, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I don't know whether or not Durant was a better mid range shooter than Gervin. I won't say that because Ice was cold, but he's a better outside shooter than Gervin for 3. Plus, he's 6'10". Plus, he's fairly athletic with the length. He would be phenomenal in that era. He wouldn't be quite the force Michael was on the defensive end, though. Durant's not a lockdown defender, but he's improved in that aspect. He's not a lockdown defender. But yeah, I'll give you Kevin Durant. I can see Kevin Durant scoring 25, 30 points per game in that era. Okay? But he would be playing in a more physical era, and the points wouldn't come as easy. His forays to the basket would not come. He would not come unscathed. Yes, he's big, but he's not that particularly strong. Okay, and back in those days, you paid a price for driving to the hole, taking it to the hole. Okay, the one guy that I'm not sold on is LeBron playing in that era. First of all, 2/3 of LeBron's points have come either in the paint or at the foul line. And in that era, he's not going to get much of either. Or if he does get to the line a lot, it's not going to be ticky-tack. He's going to have to pay a price. Okay? LeBron's a big and strong guy. Don't get me wrong. He's a big, strong guy. But you're only going to take but so much pounding. Okay? You're only going to take but so much pounding when guys like Charles Oakley and Xavier McDaniel and Karl Malone and Maurice Lucas and Rick Mahorn and Charles Barkley and so on and so on, all these guys are knocking you on your fucking ass day in and day out, night in and night out. He's going to have to develop some type of outside shot. But as we all know, LeBron doesn't have an outside shot. It's not like he's working. It's not like he hasn't worked on it. He's just not one of those guys that's going to have a great outside shot. Okay? I think in the mid-range area, LeBron for his career is like 36%, which is horrible. Okay? He's not a good mid-range shooter. Back in those days, you didn't take abundance of threes. That's just not how the game was. It was more of a mid-range game back then. And that's why I tell you that LeBron James is not going to be as dominant. Because he's not a good mid-range shooter. He is strong, okay? But I can see him being as big as he is. I can see those guys, and I think this will be another problem with Durant. When you're that big and you're going up against, let's just say, for instance, LeBron's playing the point, right? Well, let's put him on the Cavaliers. Let's put him on that Cavaliers team, right? And he's playing the point. How many times do you think a guy with a low center of gravity like Muggsy Bogues is going to strip him? You know, when you can hand check, you know, how many times do you think a guy like Derek Harper's going to strip his ass? Or if you put a bigger body on him, let's say Scotty, how much do you think Scotty's going to disrupt his team's whatever LeBron's trying to do offensively? How much do you think he's going to disrupt whatever the fuck his team's trying to do? You know what I'm saying? Disrupt their offense. What do you think Dennis Rodman's going to do to LeBron James? Not only just defensively, but mentally. What is LeBron James going to do when Charles Oakley not only knocks him on his ass, but slaps him in the face and talk shit about his mama? Or if Charles Barkley, you know what I'm saying, in the locker room, goes into his locker room, punches him in the face, and you know LeBron does nothing because he don't want it. He don't want to fight Charles Barkley and get his ass whooped. You know, how does he respond to that? How does he keep his respect as a basketball player? How does your team respect you when the opposing guy going? And they did that. Oh, don't think they didn't do shit like that. The 1980s, the NBA stood for no boys allowed. And all these beta males is walking around playing the NBA buddy buddy. That was the league back then. Yeah, guys weren't jumping out of the gym, but these were men playing basketball back then, not boys. Okay? And LeBron James, especially if he's coming into the league with all of that glory and glitter and King James shit, I don't see him surviving. I don't see him being the same player. Now, like I said, Durant, I can see him being the guy still putting up 30 some points a game. Okay? But so did Dominique Wilkins. All right? It wasn't Mike's athleticism. It wasn't just Mike's shooting ability. It wasn't just those things that made him the GOAT. It was a combination of all of those things. Mike was almost like fucking Neo from Matrix, man. He was the one. He had the athletic ability, okay? He had the drive to be better. He made his weaknesses his strengths. His weaknesses coming into the NBA was his shooting. He made it to the point where he was the game's premier mid-range jump shooter. He was a terrible outside three-point shooter when he first came to the league. He made himself into a good three-point shooter. Not great, but good three-point shooter. Okay? Mike's drive and determination and will to win and killer instinct, these are things that you can't be taught. And no amount of athleticism, okay, are going to make up for these things. Do you honestly fucking think two guys that were ran away from their teams when they lost. And I'm not trying to disrespect these guys, but Kevin Durant, he ran from Oklahoma City, okay? Didn't even inform his teammates, according to the Thunder, that he was leaving, gave them every indication he was staying, and went to the team that fucking beat you 6 weeks early. And LeBron, because he couldn't get past the Boston Celtics, left via free agency and went to Miami to form a super team. And you're trying to fucking tell me, Zeke, that these mental midgets would make it in the 1980s against Bird Celtics and your Pistons? You know goddamn well they couldn't.